Life has been very different for 5 or 6 weeks now, and I think probably many of us are starting to feel this sense of restlessness, right? Even if you're still working, life is a lot different. You can't just go out to eat whenever you want. You don't really go hang out with the friend groups that you used to hang out with. You can't grab a drink with a friend at the bar, and it's leading to all of us feeling this sense of restlessness. Now, I don't know where you're watching from, right, but here in southeastern Wisconsin, where I'm a pastor, here they're trying to extend the stay-at-home order through May, right? And when my wife and I heard that news, we were sitting on the couch, she turns to me, she looks at me, and she says, I don't know if I can do that, right? We had mentally prepared for a couple more weeks, and the idea that it might be extended further, and you're already feeling that restlessness, right? And you're, wow, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I'm mentally ready for that. Today I want to make the argument that restlessness that many of us are feeling, it's actually something that has been there all along. It's been there all along. We just go through phases in life where it's more prominent and it comes to the surface and we really struggle with it. One of my favorite books of the Bible is Ecclesiastes, and in chapter 3 it says that God has placed eternity into the hearts of human beings, right? So God has placed eternity into you, into your very heart and soul. Your heart and soul, they long for eternity. And so let me ask you this. Is anything here in this life going to satisfy that part of your soul, that part of your being that longs for eternity? No, it won't. It can't. Right? And so that sense of restlessness is always there because what we truly long for is eternity, to be by God's side. We just go through phases of life where we're better at hiding it than others. Maybe we don't think about it. Maybe we're busy enough that it doesn't bother us as much. I want to argue one more thing. I think that beneath that feeling of restlessness, there's feelings of purposelessness. Right? It's times like these when the things that we usually busy ourselves with are gone, when those questions start to creep in. What is my purpose? What is my value? What is my meaning in this life? And here's the key as we wrestle with these feelings, as we wrestle with these questions. The key is to look at ourselves and look at our lives through the right set of eyes, not through our own eyes. Because if we look at our lives and ourselves and our self-worth and our purpose through our own eyes, we're going to mess it up. We're going to get it wrong every single time. But if we look at our lives and our purpose and our meaning, if we look at it through God's eyes, we're going to get it right. So let me read a couple passages for us today to start that process of looking at our meaning and our purpose and our value through God's eyes. First, let me read 1 Peter chapter 1, beginning with verse 18. For you know that it was not with perishable things, such as silver or gold, that you were redeemed from the empty way of life handed down to you from your forefathers, but with the precious blood of Christ, a lamb without blemish or defect. I think that says something about your value to God. God values you quite a bit. First, I want to focus on that word empty. It says that God has redeemed you from an empty way of life. And if you go back to the original language to get the full picture of what that word empty means, here's another meaning of it. Useless. Or you might say something that has no purpose. Right? God redeemed you. He bought you back. He saved you from a useless, a purposeless way of life. Life apart from God, life apart from Christ is without purpose. It's without meaning. And God saw us stuck in that purposeless way of life, and it broke his heart. He decided to do something about it. Right? And the reason we were stuck in that meaningless way of life was sin. And so in order to do something about it, God had to fix that problem of sin. And the problem of sin was such a big problem that he couldn't use gold or silver, right? It talked about the currency God used to fix that problem. All the gold and silver in the world would not have been worth enough to get us out of that empty, that meaningless way of life. The only thing that would have been valuable enough was life itself. And not just any life, not just another meaningless and sin-filled life, but it had to be a perfect life. But you were so valuable to God that he was willing to do just that. to pay a life, the innocent life of his own son. And it said, by the blood of Christ, the precious blood of Christ, a lamb without blemish or defect, that is what God used to redeem you. And this section here, right, it's leading up to maybe those verses that you know in 1 Peter chapter 2. You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people belonging to God, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness and into his wonderful light. You have purpose, always, regardless of what is going on around you, regardless of if you're feeling restless on some day because of the circumstances. What is your purpose? To sing the praises of him who called you out of that empty way of life. You are God's own special possession, bought with the blood of Christ. When you match up Jesus versus purposelessness, that empty way of life, doesn't stand a chance. Jesus wins every time. Amen.